Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alicia. I post new tutorials every Thursday, primarily on Tumblrs, and this is a Tumblr tutorial, yes. So I am going to do a half fabric wrap, half a glitter cup. This cup I am covering up. It is a mess up. It is a sublimation that the colors just were absolutely horrible, and I was like, there is no way I can do anything with this. So I am going to cover it up. And so what I did was I measured out my cup, which is 8 by like 9 1/4, and I measured out a piece of fabric, as you can see there, and I cut it to 8 by 4. And I didn't iron this. I'm just going to place it right on using Mod Podge, and it's going to stretch out the wrinkles. So when you put this on your cup and you smooth it out, you're not going to see any wrinkles. I mean, unless it's like super duper wrinkled, then I would definitely iron it out. But for minor wrinkles, you don't really need to do that. That glue is going to hold that down, and it's going to stretch it out. So I put one layer of glue and I smooth it out, make sure there's no air bubbles in there. I measured this pretty much to the exact size. So I think that this is like an easy way to do this, especially for beginner friendly. For those of you who are new to tumbler making and want to try something different, like adding half fabric and half glitter like I'm doing with this cup. And so after I get this all adhered down, I'm going to let this dry for about 10 or 15 minutes. Oh, I'm going to cut off these there's some little fray marks because my scissors aren't really great, so I had to get some fray. So you can trim them off with a craft knife. I'm going to let this dry about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come in with Mod Podge, and I am going to give this a nice good coat on the top. And I did not go all the way to the top or the bottom. Well, actually, I did go to the bottom, which I really didn't want to do. But I did, and I left it because I didn't want to try to screw it up, cutting it a little bit shorter. But I didn't go all the way to the top because when I do my coat of epoxy, I want to make sure that it is sealed over that fabric and it is sealed to the cup. So one good coat of this, going different directions, making sure it gets really into the fabric. And I'm going to let this dry for an hour, and then I'm going to do it again. So then after my 2 coats are dry times vary. It depends on your room temperature. You can also help it dry quicker using a heat gun or a blow dryer. All right, so this is completely dry. It's been drying for me for a couple of hours, and I take this painter's tape and I de-stickied it by putting it on my clothes a couple of times. I didn't want it to really be too sticky when I'm putting it over this fabric because I don't want it to pull the fabric up from the cup. It could happen, even though this is nice and dry. So now I'm going to spray the white part, this metallic gold or just metallic color, and it is by Rust-Oleum. I'm going to do 2 coats of this, and this stuff dries pretty quick. So within a half an hour, this was dry. So I did 2 coats of that. Now I'm going to apply my glitter using Mod Podge. And you can see my Mod Podge is, I don't know, it's got like this really weird clumpy thing going on in there. So I will be checking it after I use it on this. But I'm going to apply my first layer of glitter using Mod Podge. And so the glitter that I am using is a very chunky glitter, and it's a really neat color. It's like this peachy with this gold, and I thought it complemented the blue fabric really well. But I needed to do 2 coats, so I did my first coat with Mod Podge and press that glitter down because it's really chunky, so you want to make sure you get it nice and flat. If you don't, chunky glitter, when it sticks up in the epoxy, it'll just be a hassle for you, and there'll be a lot of sanding that you just don't want to do. So then I let that dry for about 15 minutes. I went in and I spray adhesived my second coat. So I put a spray adhesive on and then did a second coat because I just didn't like the way the Mod Podge was grabbing onto this glitter. But you could use Mod Podge. It's completely up to you. Once I was done with that second coat, I peeled off my tape and I let this dry for half an hour, and then I took it outside and I gave it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum's Krylon Triple Thick. Now, I like Krylon Triple Thick. I think it really holds the glitter on really well. And the reason why I'm sealing this glitter and I'm doing 2 coats is I do not want this glitter to travel when I put my first coat of epoxy on. All right, so this cup is now dry with its 2 coats of Krylon Triple Thick, and so the top of this is white. The top of this cup is white, so I'm using this gold leaf pen, and of course, all of the products that I use are listed and linked down below. to fill in that white with gold, and I thought that looked really nice. So now what I'm going to do for the bottom is, in lieu of doing glitter, because I really do not like putting chunky glitter on the bottom of the cup, and I didn't feel like color matching, and I came up with the idea, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something different. So I decided to use foils on the bottom of this cup. So I picked out Glitter Makes It's bronze and gold foil, and I am applying it. Use it Aleene's Tack-It over and over. So if you're not familiar with this glue, it is a glue that goes on, and it glows on white, it dries clear, but it is tacky, it's sticky, and that's what you want. So now I'm just going to take this gold foil, which is so fun to use with a lot of different projects. It gives such an interesting, unique textured look. And I'm going to first start with the gold and just kind of place it on there randomly. There's no rhyme or reason. And I'm going to not even be like really neat with it. And I'm just going to rub it down a little bit. And then once I am satisfied with all of that gold, I'm going to come in with this bronzy color, and I'm going to fill in the white spots. And I'm going to go over to gold, and right now it's kind of chunky, but that's okay, because once I get all of this on there, I'm going to take a bristled brush and I'm going to take the excess off. Like, I'm going to rub it down with my finger, and I'm going to use a brush just to get it all nice and smooth. So this is a very simple process to get a really interesting, unique look. And again, the bottom of the cup is, not one that people are really staring at anyway. So I thought it would be fun just to kind of try this. And these colors match up pretty nicely with the glitter. So it worked out really, really well. So now you see here, I'm burnishing this down with my finger. So basically I'm flattening it out, smoothing it, getting all the excess off, because there will be some excess. Then I'm taking my bristle brush and I am burnishing it down even more and getting off any of that extra, because this could be problematic if you do not get it tacked down all the way. It could act like the glitter and stick up and then create problems with bumpy and lumpy epoxy. So you want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And since this comes out of the bag's kind of chunky and you're kind of like haphazard putting it on, it can be lumpy. All right, so I'm taking that gold leaf pen again, and I am just doing around the bottom of the cup to match the top and fill in some of the gaps. And no need to do anything further. If you want to seal that bottom, you can. You don't have to, and you can seal it with whatever you want. But I am coming in with 30 mLs of my epoxy. You can use whatever epoxy you want, whatever your favorite is. If you want to use fast set, go ahead and do that. If you want to use your regular set, go ahead and do that too. I'm first applying it to the fabric side, and then I am going to apply it to the glitter. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way is because even though I use the Krylon triple thick, there are some loose pieces here and there, and you could go ahead and seal it even further with polyacrylic if you're worried about travel. But I figured what I'm going to do, or not figured, it's something that you can do, is just to put it on the fabric first and then go ahead and put it on the glitter and smooth it out, and then come back in at that seam, because you don't want the glitter to travel, or I didn't want my glitter to travel into the fabric section. Sometimes it's okay if it does that, like if that's a look that you're going for and you're okay with some, some stragglers, but I didn't want this glitter to travel into the fabric, because I really think the fabric is pretty as it is with its different colors and its gold, and I didn't want to have any specks. So that's how I applied my glitter for this. You are going to need 2 coats because it is chunky glitter. And then once my 2 coats are done, I will be back with the next step, which will be sanding this down to make it smooth and applying my vinyl. So don't forget to torch for bubbles. I use a kitchen torch that seems to pop bubbles better than a heat gun. A heat gun works more for moving the epoxy around. So torch. I usually torch immediately when I'm done, and then about 5 minutes later, make sure that I get any rogue bubbles that are kind of hanging around. And that is it for this. So here I come in. Yeah, now I'm showing you how I just kind of go down that line. I take extra epoxy and just go right in that line. At one point, I did change my glove. I will say that, because I did get a little bit too many chunkier pieces on there, and I thought it would be best just to change my glove just to make sure that I didn't get that glitter into the fabric side. All right, so now this has 2 coats on it, and it's got some pokies. It's got some, I call them pokies. It's got some glitter that are sticking up that I don't like. So we're gonna go ahead and sand around the top. Make sure you get that little tiny strip of stainless steel so that your epoxy seals everything to that cup really nicely. I am going to sand that seam, and then for the really ones that are pokey, I'm going to use this rotary tool. I swear by this thing. I love it. I use it all the time. I use it up around the top edge as well to help get down to that stainless steel. So sand around the cup, make sure it's nice and smooth, clean it off with, I have 70% alcohol. Like, I didn't use 91% on this. I go back and forth between the 70 and the 91. I didn't really notice too much of a difference. All right, so I cut out strips 8.1 by 0.2 out of this black glittery vinyl that I picked up at Any-Up Graphic Supply. And this is what I'm going to do to tie it all together to hide that ugly looking seam. And it just pulled this all together. I'm going to trim that bottom. That's it. I'm going to put 2 more coats of epoxy on here, and this cup is going to be done. Now, I'm not putting a saying on here. I'm going to leave this open in case somebody decides that they want to put a name or a saying on there. So that is it for this tutorial, guys. It was so easy peasy, and look how beautiful this came out. So if you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share, comment. I love to hear your feedback. Make sure you join my Facebook group, It's a Craft Thing, and check out my Instagram as well as Glitter Makes It Superstars group. They have fun giveaways every Sunday, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.